Welcome back to My Favorite Crafty Things of 2018. This is Jennifer McGuire, and this is my second video in the series. If you missed my first video on stamps, be sure to check it out. I'll link here on the top right. Today is all about dies. I'll be sharing my favorite dies from the year and trying to give a good variety, so hopefully there's something that will appeal to everyone. Keep in mind that you need to go over to my blog to get some really important information, such as many great discount codes, giveaways, more sources for the products I talk about, and so on. I will link the supplies below, but not everything fits there, so heading to my blog will give you more. Okay, let's start by diving into background dies. I have a few favorites to share with you. The first is the Lawn Fawn Itsy Bitsy Polka Dot die. Now this is a full cover plate, so it cuts that edge with the little polka dot holes, and the overall size that it cuts is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Throughout the video, I'll show this pink note card to allow you to get a size reference. That pink note card is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, which is a typical note card size. You can see that you can see through these little holes to allow the color behind it to show through. This is a fun one. I think it's great for just adding a little bit of interest to a background, as you can see with the example I show here. And by the way, if you want to see more of the examples I show in this video, they are all linked in my blog post, so you can easily find those videos. Another one from Lawn Fawn that I like is the Lawn Fawn Quilted Backdrop. This offers tiny little stitching lines and those little petal holes. Again, it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and you can see how the color will show through from behind. There's something sweet about this pattern, and I used it on this simple card here. You can even offset this and die cut it again to add more to the background pattern, and just cut a smaller background from that. Okay, the next one that we have here is the Studio Katia Halftone Dots cover die. Now this doesn't cut the outside edge, just those circles. So I cut it from a piece of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch white cardstock there to show you. But you could use this to just cut from the front of a note card, since it doesn't cut the edge. And I really like having that option. Here's an example where I used this die to cut from part of the front of a note card, allowing the inside to show through. I think dies like this are great for tone-on-tone looks, where you die cut it from a certain color of cardstock and put it on that same color of cardstock. So you've got that little bit of texture, but it's not too distracting. One background die that I have used a lot this year is the Sugar Pea Starburst cover plate. I like this because the pattern creates a focal point in the center where you can add a stamped image or even just a simple sentiment. It cuts a piece that is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches wide, so it covers the front of a card. It can be used horizontal or vertical. Here's a card I made using this and some alcohol ink scraps that I had left over and didn't want to go to waste. It's great for using up those scraps and quickly creating a fun, colorful card. And all you have to do is add a fun sentiment in the middle. Okay, next up we have the Hero Arts Bold Graphic Confetti die. This cuts a piece that is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so it covers the front of a card. However, you could easily trim this down and create a fun border with it. But what I find is most fun to do with this die is to use it to make an impression in cardstock for a fun textured background. You do that with an embossing mat, and I'll show that soon in one of my favorite crafty things videos coming up that's all about die cut machines. In the meantime, here's an example showing this die cut from white cardstock and added with craft foam onto a white note card. Now, if you're looking for a die that you can use to just add a little texture to the background of any card, I recommend checking out the Altenew Dotted Scales die. It cuts a piece that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, but it pierces tiny holes in a scallop pattern on the background. Here you can see a card where the background is white, but I added that little bit of interest by using this die. And because this kind of has a classic design to it, you really can use it with a variety of card styles. Another die that's great for just adding interest to backgrounds is the Avery Elle Hatch Matte die. This cuts a piece that is 4 by 5 1/4, so it's slightly smaller than a note card. In addition to cutting the outside edge, it also cuts little lines into that piece. which just create a fun pattern where you can add something like a little stamped image or sentiment in the center, allowing that to be the focus. You can see this die in action here on this card where I have an ornament hanging on the front. It's tucked behind a strip of vellum, and that hatch pattern just adds a little bit of interest to the simple background. Here's a smaller die. It's not really a background die, but I use it for backgrounds, so I thought I'd include it here. It's the Essentials by Ellen Skinny Stripes die. Now you can see there are some other dies here that you can buy with it, or you can get it separately. The piece on the right is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I die cut a section with this. I just think it's a fun way to add a little something behind a focal point image. You can also put another piece behind it that's die cut also and make it the other direction, so you kind of have a crosshatch pattern. All right, here we have the Little Inker Diagonal Plaid die. This cuts 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Here's what one piece looks like, and it's a great plaid pattern. But if you die cut another and rotate it, you can layer it and get an even more impressive plaid background. I'm a big fan of die cuts that layer because you build up texture without too much bulk, and this one is great for backgrounds. I have had so much fun using the Pink and Main puzzle die. So it cuts a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece of cardstock into lots of puzzle pieces. So what I like to do is stamp and color and write a message, then use this die on it to cut it up into little pieces. Then the recipient puts the pieces together to reveal whatever you stamped or whatever message you put. I have several examples in a video that I have linked up here on the top right. I think this is such a fun and unexpected card. Here we have the W+9 Tossed Floral Background die. Now this cuts smaller than 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so it fits perfectly on the front. You can also cut these little flowers into leaves into smaller pieces and use those as accents on cards too. This even looks beautiful when die cut from felt or even pattern papers. But here's an example where I used it die cut from white on a white note card. Here we have the Simon Says Stamp Leafy Frame die. This cuts a piece that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, but the inside area is open, so you can put whatever sentiment you want there. You can even die cut this multiple times and flip and rotate the different die cuts together so you get a fun layered look. For this card, I used the die cuts edge to edge to create a fun gatefold card design. There are so many ways to use this, and it's excellent for fun techniques. Next up is the Pinkfresh Studio Fancy Floral Frame dies. There's die 1 and die 2, and they can be used together or separately. Here's what the die cuts look like separately, but check it out when you layer them together. I just think it's such a fun looking background. These cut an overall size that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, but that outside edge, the frame that you see there, could be trimmed down to allow the note card to show along the edges if you wanted. I really like these. I've used them several times on cards, and here's an example of them layered together, and then I die cut inlaid a fun little unicorn stamp die cut image. If you've watched my videos, you know that I'm a big fan of layering dies. I think the results are so amazing looking. However, they do have a high price point, and there are a lot of them out there. If you're looking to invest in one set, I would recommend the Birch Press Grace Layer dies. Those are the 3 background dies you see here. Now they cut these pieces for the outside, but they also have 2 inside pieces too. So you can interchange all of these, or you can use some together or use them all separately. So many options to do. Or if you layer them all on top of each other, you get a magnificent look. Also, Birch Press has lots of other smaller sets of layering dies that are all circles, and they fit into these outside frames. But I feel like this is your best investment because you get the outside frame that you could use by itself, or the inside ones that you can use by themselves. There are a lot of different ways you can use these together. You can quickly do the die cutting and create a card that looks like it took a lot of time. Here's an example where I let little bits of color show through the openings. Okay, now it's time for word dies, my other favorite type of die there is. I like word dies because I can create a card and then put the sentiment on as an afterthought and not have to save an area to stamp a greeting. I feel the Concord and Ninth Fabulous Friends die set is a must-have. There aren't many die sets out there that include multiple sentiments, so this one is great. There are 4 included. I really like the style of the sentiments, and the size is perfect. Here's an example where I have Fabulous Friends right at the center of a card and added little accent flowers around it. Now, I probably use Hello word dies more than anything else. The one I like this year the most is the Memory Box Folksy Script Hello die. The reason I like Hello die cuts is because you can team it up with just about any small stamp sentiment. You could have Hello, missing you, or hello, get well soon, or hello, thanks for all you do, anything you want. You can keep the hello as the focus, and then stamp a smaller greeting below it or on the inside. I also like the Pretty Pink Posh Hello Friend die. So this includes the words hello and friend, and they fit together nicely. However, you can use the word hello by itself, or the word friend by itself, and I like that it has both options. Here's an example of how those words kind of sit into each other nicely and are perfect at the center of any card. Here's an example where I use the word friend alone. It's hard to see on that picture there, but it's tone on tone, and I stacked the friend die cut so it would stand out a bit more. I also really like the Simon Says Stamp Thanks dies. These are from CZ Designs over at Simon Says Stamp. In the die set, you have the word thanks and the shadow for the word thanks. This is a great large size and a very classic font, so it can be used for a variety of cards. I also like how it fits perfectly on a horizontal card, which is something that's hard to find. Here I used the thanks in a blue cardstock on a white shadow, and you can see how that shadow die cut makes it stand out against the blue background. Here's another option for a thanks sentiment. It's the Simon Says Stamp Big Thanks die set. Again, you have the word thanks and the shadow die. And this is a beautiful script with a large size, so it really fits nicely on a card, either horizontal or vertical. I've used this one many times in videos this year, and here's an example of it with silver glitter cardstock, with the white shadow die cut to make it stand out against that bold background. Sometimes it's best just to send a card for absolutely no reason, but to surprise someone and let them know you're thinking of them. This Birch Press Just Because Sugar Script die set is perfect for that. You can see how Just Because works nicely on a horizontal or vertical card. You can also stamp a smaller sentiment on it just to be more specific to an occasion if you wanted to. Here's an example of where I used it on a layered die cut background, and I love the style of it. Birch Press has many sugar script die sets with different words such as thanks, hugs, believe, shine, anything you can think of they have in that. And they also have small sizes and large sizes. It was hard to narrow it down, but the Just Because and this Hugs set were my favorite. This Hugs is a little bit bigger, and the die set actually includes the shadow and the word itself. I'm really liking that option because it allows your die cut sentiment to stand out more against a background. Here's a good example of a busy, colorful background. I have the word hugs die cut from white, but I use the shadow die to cut from vellum, and that helps to make it stand out more. Next, we have the Memory Box Jotted Celebrate dies. There are many different words in this style. Again, we have the shadow die and the word itself. But I thought Celebrate was great because it can be used, of course, for birthdays, but also for many other celebration occasions. So instead of getting Happy Birthday dies, the Celebrate works for that, and anniversaries, etc. Another great sentiment for a lot of different occasions is Thinking of You, and I don't think I've ever had a Thinking of You die set before, so I was excited about the Honey Bee Thinking of You dies. Now this cuts the intricate words Thinking of You, and then there's also the shadow. This is super large, so you can see how it really fills up a card, and you don't have to put much else around it. I love doing background techniques, and with this die I could just put this on top and it would stand out nicely. I am crazy excited about the Honey Bee Be Bold alphabet set. I really like using alphabet dies, especially for fun techniques where you create a fun stamped panel, die cut out the letters, and add them in with foam tape, or so that I can personalize a card with whatever greeting I want or the person's name. These are the perfect size. They're about 1.5 inches tall, and they aren't too wide, so you can actually fit a word across a card. I'll be using these in a video soon, and I can't recommend them enough. I am also crazy about the new Sunny Studio Loopy Letters Snippets die set. The reason I'm so excited about this is I can get a fun script word or name for my cards very easily with this die set. You simply overlap the ends of each letter and they connect together wonderfully. So I'm looking forward to adding these to cards along with a little stamp sentiment underneath it, or you could even use it for gift tags or school projects or anything. It's a smaller set, so it's actually got a good price point for an alphabet die set. Along the same lines, but with a completely different look, is the Simon Says Stamp Rounded Alphabet die set. This is so much fun to use. You just take a scrap of cardstock, run it through, and you end up with all these letters. I keep the extra letters in the packaging with it so that I'll have them for future projects. Here's an example where I just die cut the word hugs and added it right on top of a border die cut. You could do a person's name, a different greeting, come up with something clever, all easily done with a small alphabet set like this. Okay, next up I have a mix of dies that I recommend that don't really fit in any other category. There are a few must-haves and then some that are simply fun to use. First, we have the Hero Arts Nesting Rounded Rectangle die set. There are 16 dies included in the set, and they cut rectangles with the perfect rounded corner. Now, I like that I can use these instead of a corner rounder so that I can make frames or windows for my cards. Perfect for shaker boxes, window cards, anything. I've used these a lot throughout the year, and here's an example. There's just something nice about having that soft curved edge. And by the way, Hero Arts has many great nesting sets like this at a great price, and I talked all about a lot of them in my video last year, so be sure to check that out after this one, and I'll link to it at the end. Here's another. This is the Nesting Ornament Infinity die set. There are 8 dies with this beautiful, unique shape. You could make a large shaped card, have a large element that you can stamp on the front of your card, or you can use the tiniest little ornamental dies to die cut repeated shapes that you can create a fun background, like a repeated background. I've used this die set many times to die cut the shape that I stamp on to put on my card. Instead of using a rectangle or a circle, I just use this interesting shape instead, as I did here. Here's another great set that is fun for a little bit of a different look. It's the My Favorite Things Elegant Rectangle die set. You can use them individually to cut shapes such as you see here, or you can use 2 together to create a frame that just has a unique look to it. Here's an example of creating a frame. I had a fun technique that I did with an embossing folder, and I wanted to highlight it, so I put it inside that die cut frame. Next up, we have the W+9 Hexagon Stackers die set. Now this is fun for, again, creating a piece that you can do your stamping on as a focal point on a card, or you could even use the largest one to create a fun shaped card. Or you can use the smallest one and create a repetitive pattern in a background. Here's an example or 2 examples that I made. One is the largest used for a shape card, and the other I used one of the medium-sized hexagons to create a focal point for my stamping. One of the most unique and really beautiful die sets of this year is the My Favorite Things Linked Octagon Frame die set. There are 3 dies in here, and look at the intricate, beautiful frame that you get. Now you could use the frame alone, or use the inside piece with it, or use the inside piece alone. It gives you several options. Here's an example that I made where I put a technique of embossing folder and perfect pearls inside of that frame, and it just creates a beautiful highlight. I'll be using this one again in the future as I think it's gorgeous, and I hope they come out with more like this. Okay, we have the Reverse Confetti Stitched Squares dies. Now, stitching dies are very popular, but this one's different. It cuts the square with 3 lines of faux stitching inside of it. Or you can do 2 of the dies together to create a frame with the stitching. I think the 3 rows of stitching just adds so much to a simple piece. Now here's an example that I did where I created a frame by using 2 of the dies together, and you can see the 3 rows of stitching that go around the frame. Just gives a beautiful finishing touch. The Poppy Stamps Pinpoint Rings die set is new, and I can't wait to use it in a video. There are 3 dies in here. They don't cut lines. Instead, they just pierce tiny little holes. In fact, each die pierces 3 rows of those tiny little holes in a circle. So if you like making one-layer cards but want to add a little bit of texture to your cardstock, this is a great way. It gives you a nice focal point that you can do some stamping inside of. You could even use the 3 together. Here's another that's on my desk that I hope to use soon. It's the Your Next Stamp Piercing Holes Circle Dies. Now this pierces good size holes that allow color to show through from behind, or you can use them for stitching if you prefer. You can die cut it once, then rotate the die a little bit and die cut again for double the amount of holes. Keep in mind this does not cut a circle, but rather only creates the little holes, and it's such a unique set. Next we have the Honeybee Stacking Stars die set. The reason I included this one is stars are great for any kind of celebration or birthday card. With the largest star, you can create a shaped card. With the tiniest star, you can create little stars to decorate your card. And with the medium-sized stars, you can create an element that you can add stamping to. These nesting sets are a great investment because there's so many dies included, and you can use them for many different things. That's why I have many nesting sets on my list today. One of the most creative die sets of the year is the Pinkfresh Noteworthy Frames dies. Now there are 4 dies in here, and if you look closely, these dies don't cut a shape, but rather cut along the top and the bottom, but it keeps it connected on the sides. So what you get is a slot in this shape that you can tuck die cuts behind. Let me show you an example to make more sense. You can see where my sentiment is on these cards. I use the Noteworthy frame die, and then I can tuck the little flower die cuts in behind it. It's such a beautiful look and such a nice option instead of die cutting something and putting it on top of your card. Okay, here we have the Simon Says Stamp Sentiment Label dies. I actually lost one of these dies and I was panicking, so I bought a new die set. I use this one in a video in many different ways, and I give lots of suggestions for stamping on sentiment label strips, and I'll link to that here. But what's nice about this is you can cut the perfect sentiment strip, trim the edges down straight, or use those little V dies to create a ribbon banner. Here's an example of a card that I created using this sentiment banner die set. I like that it has all the different sizes so I can find the perfect one for whatever sentiment I'm using. Here we have the Sugar Pea Card Front Element Builder die set. Now this includes a lot of different things that you can use on the front of your card for different styles and different looks. The largest die cuts a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece that has faux stitching on the inside edge. The second largest die cuts a scallop shape with faux stitching on the inside edge. So here's the biggest one. It covers the entire front of a card. And then you can see the second largest one is slightly smaller, so it allows some of the note card to show through. The other 3 dies are border dies with faux stitching edge, so you can create fun elements for the front of your card. One of the borders does a rounded edge, one does a wave edge, and the other does this fun kind of diagonal edge that I think is really nice for a different type of card design. I created this alcohol ink background, wasn't sure what to do, so I used the die, added a sentiment, and I was good to go. I don't know what it is, but I love leaf dies. I just feel like they can be used for a variety of styles, with flowers, without flowers, masculine, feminine, it doesn't matter. Here's the Spellbinders Little Plants die set, and I've used this a few times this year. It cuts 3 perfect little leaves that are great for different techniques, such as this one here, where I did a fun letterpress using the die cuts. There's another leaf die set that I'm excited about. I just got this one, and I die cut it, and I was blown away with how beautiful and intricate the die cuts are. This is the Tim Holtz Skeleton Leaf die set. You can see there are 5 large leaves included in this die set. And look at the detail that you get with it. I like that these leaves could be used year-round for different occasions or different seasons, I guess you would say. But my absolute favorite is the large one. That one is beautiful and fills the front of a card nicely. All you have to do is add a few gems and a sentiment and you're done. Dies like this are great for techniques, or just to add a simple die cut on top of an inked background that you've created. Here we have the Ink Road Bella Flora dies. There are lots of large, intricate floral dies here. There are also the shadow dies. I don't have them all showing here. And then you have the word dies, hello, lovely, and kind. You can see how beautiful these are. They could even be used to cover a background. I have some plans for a fun technique using these, but I wanted to include them today because I think they're beautiful. You could use one alone, add a little bit of coloring, and have a gorgeous and elegant card. And by the way, the price point is really good on this set too. Next, we have another from Tim Holtz. This is the Mixed Media 5 die set. These are floral, but a little bit different. They actually cut a portion of your card. So you can see the one here I cut along the bottom of a card panel. And you could actually do it twice, once in the opposite corner, and stamp a greeting along the center. Or this one has this beautiful floral that's kind of coming out from the side of the card. You could actually do two flaps like that and have them come and meet in the center and tie with a ribbon for a fun, unique card. Now the third one, again, is a kind of a corner design. You could do it in one corner or two corners and cover your entire card. I just like that these are super intricate and you can allow any beautiful color or inked background to show through. Speaking of intricate dies, we have the Waffle Flower Lacy Flower die. What I think is really special about this die is there are a lot of large geometric kind of background dies like this, but this one's a little more playful. It looks more hand-drawn, and I just love the feel of it, especially on a homemade card. Now this you could put in the center, you could make a shaped card, or you can put it off-center, creating a focal point for any image or word. Now one die that I have been using a lot lately is the Altenew Fine Frames Cover die. Now this large die cuts a bunch of thin frames that you can use to kind of frame up an element on your card. You can use them individually or put several of the thin frames together for kind of a built-up look. Now here's an example that I did where I created a frame, covered it with silver embossing powder, and then put it around the element in the center of my card. I actually have die cut a bunch of these from white cardstock, and I keep them in a little pocket so that I can quickly grab a frame and add it to my card. Okay, the last category of dies I'm including today are specialty dies. Some of these are interactive dies or just unique dies. Here we have the My Favorite Things Cross Stitch Rectangle die. Now I love to stitch on paper. I think it's so much fun. It makes a card extra special, and I do the stitching on the go. I've talked about different stitching dies that I like in the past, but this one's great because you can easily divide it up into different sections based on how many holes they have. So check out this fun pattern that I was able to create. I might do a video on this if you guys are interested, but in the meantime, if you want to learn about stitching on paper, I'll link to a video up here on the top right. But I'm really liking this My Favorite Things stitching die. It's the one that I'm reaching for the most. And by the way, even if you don't want to stitch, you can just use it as a fun background. Next, we have the Concord & Ninth easel die. I've actually used this many times, but not shown it in a video. What I do is I die cut the shape here, fold it in half, and put it in an envelope with my card. It creates this perfect easel that the person can put the card on so they can keep it on display instead of throwing it away, because we don't want them to do that. Now you could do this simple easel like this, and this is how the card would rest on it. And here I'll kind of turn it so you can see. Or there is another die included in the set that creates a little ledge or a shelf with a fun scalloped edge. I often leave cards for people like on their desk. I do that for teachers, or I leave one next to my kid's bed on their nightstand. And it's fun to put the card on a little display like this. Okay, one of my favorite products of this year is the Simon Says Stamp Modern Flowers Card Wrap. Now you use this die to create a wrap that goes around your card. So it cuts a half circle with the floral pattern, but that straight edge actually is a score line. It doesn't cut there. I just did it from a piece of paper here just so you could see what it's like. But the way you use it is to create pieces that wrap around a card like you see here. I actually also put a vellum band around it too. I have a video that shows many creative ways to use this, and it is such a fun die. Throughout this year, I've had a lot of fun making interactive cards. One of the easiest to make is with the Sunny Studio sliding window die. Now, the main sliding window die feature is just made with this die. Those other dies are just included to add decoration, and the price point's pretty good on this set. Let me show you how this works. When the card is closed, this is what it looks like. There's a tab on the top, and when you pull it, it pops up like this to reveal a message or a gift card or something inside. It's really fun, easy to do, and you can use it with lots of stamps and dies that you may have. One of the most popular specialty dies of the year is the Lawn Fawn Pivot Pop-Up Die. Now, I loaned this out to a friend to borrow, so I don't have the die set to show you, but it goes together easily. Let me show you an example. From the outside, it looks like a normal card, but when you open it up, there's a huge pop-up surprise. It's such a unique design. I have a video showing many things you can do with this, including incorporating a gift card. I'm not going to show all of the assembly of these different interactive dies in this video because it would take way too long, but I do have videos for all of them, and they're linked on my blog. Next up, we have the My Favorite Things Tri-Fold Slider dies. Now, these are funny looking as is, but let me show you what the final card looks like. From the outside, it looks like a simple gatefold card. But when you open it up, two images come together and kiss or meet in the center, like these two cats have. It's actually easier to assemble than it looks, and I've got a video showing that too. There are so many creative ways that you can use that set. Here we have the My Favorite Things Double Slider Loop Slots dies. This is a definite must-have from this year, and the price point is great. With these dies, you can create pull-tab slider cards like this one. You have a wreath, and when you pull that tab from the bottom, a reindeer pops up. You can use this in so many different ways to create fun pull-tab interactive cards. Again, I'll have a video linked. Next, we have the Mama Elephant Inside Arch dies. These little dies can be used to create elements that pop up in the inside of your card. So the outside looks normal, but when you open it up, there's a surprise inside. You just put adhesive on the bottom flaps, and there are a few different ways you can put it inside your card, but you always line it up with the crease. So from the outside, it looks normal, and when you open it up, it pops up, and you can have little critters taped to that or stamped on it, and the die set includes a bigger arch, so you can have a bigger pop-up if you want. In this case, I created a kitty cat tree, attached it to one of these arches so that when you open the card, that whole tree pops up. I really like fun interactive surprises with cards. This is the Mama Elephant Fancy Door Frame dies. Now this die set includes a lot. You have this fun frame. The outside measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and it has little piercings and little scallops and holes for a decorative look. Then there's a centerpiece that creates a door and a door frame. And the door can flip open. So you can put it in the center of the frame, the outside frame, or use it alone. So just think of all the things you can do on a card. You can make it so a door opens and there's a gift card inside, or a little stamped critter, anything you want. You can even make it a window card behind that door. Okay, this year there were a few different dies that are great for creating little boxes. Now, one of my favorites is the Neat and Tangled Gift Card Box Die. It's very easy to assemble and pretty obvious from looking at the die. It creates all the score lines for you, and it doesn't require much adhesive. So I've put adhesive on the outside 3 flaps, and I just tuck the tabs under the flaps and close everything up. This box even has a little notch cut so you can easily open it. And the fun thing about this little box, it's the perfect size for a gift card. So if you're giving any gift cards as gifts, this makes it even more special. Neat and Tangle also has another die set available to decorate this box and a stamp set designed perfectly to go on this. Another great box die from this year is the Essentials by Ellen Parcel Box Die. It cuts the piece to assemble a fun box, but in this case, the top of the box are 2 pieces that meet together. And you can see that included in the die set are lots of little dies to give you different options of how to make a closure for this box, and also ways to decorate it. Julie Ebersole designed this, and I asked her if I could share a few of her project pictures, and she said yes. You can see here there are several different ways you can close this box, including little ties, ribbons with slots, lots of options. And of course, it fits a gift card. Okay, there you have it, my favorite crafty dies from this year. I hope this was helpful to you. I do have links for everything in my YouTube description below, but they don't all fit. So be sure to go to my blog for lots of different sources, for many different discount codes, and for giveaways. I also have links there to all the different projects that you saw in this video, so you can learn how to make those too. In the middle is my favorite crafty things stamp video from this year and my favorite die video from last year. I appreciate the time that you spend with me. I hope you have a great day and we'll see you soon.